Radio Row.
So, by the way, back to the Pac-12 story that we were discussing about SMU as a possible connection or whatever the Pac-12 might be doing, and of course there's the visit by Kleofkoff. Red Wine 65, the Big Ten threw a wrench in a lot of stuff, didn't they, with USC and UCLA? Yeah, they did. Because that Texas-Oklahoma was really, even then, that was out of nowhere. And if it wasn't for Brett Zerneman, who knows how much longer that might have been under the radar until, the Big 12 could have reacted, or it would have been too late to react. And then, of course, we thought that was a bombshell. And then almost a year later, you have USC and UCLA. From Jesse Wilson, the Pac-12 basically needs to add more teams before they get a new media rights deal, which is the question I asked you. Is this part of what they need to do?
I think so. I think that, look, the media rights deal has slowed, not because there's not value in the Pac-12. There's value there. I just think that as a group, they're all in different spots. So expanding, when you expand the conference, that means that your current members are committing to a new structure and you're committing to something new. So expansion will help you get to that point where you can all commit and be on the same page. And look, through no fault of anybody in particular, this isn't what's going on in the Pac-12 right now is not like what happened forever and ever with Texas in Oklahoma, and the way that Texas and Oklahoma kind of ran the Big 12 and everybody else, was kind of treated at times like you're kind of lucky to be here. Just let us make our decisions and we'll take care of you. And so there wasn't that kind of autonomy within each school that you kind of had to, genuflect a little bit to the big dogs. And that was even before. With A&M was like that too. And, when you have too many alphas in the room, there's going to be a clash. What the Pac-12 has right now is they've got a bunch of schools they're all in different spots. So they have to think about what their long-term is and, what their long-term, what their plan is, does not necessarily have to be together, and it does not necessarily have to be on the same track if they want to go their separate ways. But if they want to stay together, they have to find where those tracks can stay together.
By the way, Sidney Machado asked about, did anyone from the Big 12 reach out to any Pac-12 teams? I would think, and I don't know the answer, but I guess my gut is they have still their own things they're trying to work through because of right now the focus for the while was get a damn schedule out. Then let's try to get this Texas-Oklahoma thing summed up, wrapped up, zipped up, whatever you want to do it. So I think that they have enough on their plate right now. Is anyone from the Pac-12 reaching out? Has anyone... I think you got to be careful with that. I think you got to be very careful because if you were sitting there worried about other people tampering with you back when remember it was the American Conference was going to raid the Big 12. That ended in one legal letter sent to ESPN and the American Conference or whatever Bob Bowlesby did at the time when he was reacting to Texas and Oklahoma. I would think right now if there is any kind of discussion, it would be third party. It would not be directly. And I think the Big 12 still has a few more T's to cross and I's to dot before they worry about anything else or anyone else.
No, but I do think that I agree with you. I think that any discussion would have been very, very theoretical in, just on the, let's do a thought exercise of what would have to happen for this to be enticing to you. And some of those discussions or things like that is not even necessarily about expanding. It's just about figuring out where, what pathways could eventually happen, right? So I may never intend to expand or add, say they called up Arizona State. And just I say that because we're right here in Phoenix. They called up Arizona State, some third party, and said, hey, what would the circumstances have to be for you guys to consider moving conferences? Not even the Big 12, but for you guys to make that kind of a move. What has to happen? And then you find out what Arizona State is looking for, what their long-term goals are, what they think. And then you go, that prepares you for what could be the next wave because now you know what somebody else is thinking as opposed to just people in your bubble. Even though it may never come of anything, any of those discussions could be just on educational informative kind of.
Yeah, and Arizona State might be the right example as far as if they were moving east. I don't, because based on what Tony Altomore has told us, they're more hooked into the Pac-12 mentality.
No, but maybe, if you called Colorado and said, what would be the circumstances where you would want to come back? And one of them might have been like, a time machine, so you guys forgot that we left in the first place.
Yeah, but Cindy Machado, Brian Etheridge responded to her, and Brian's very much in tune to a lot. And of course, if you didn't hear Mac Rhodes with us yesterday, he dropped a bunch of nuggets. He dropped a bunch of nuggets if you were listening to his segment to us about the timeline with Texas and OU, among the money and many things as well. Cindy thought, or was asking about whether anybody from the Big 12 was going to head to the Pac-12. Why would anybody, and this is with all due respect to whatever the Pac-10, 12, 8, or whatever it ends up being, why would anyone in a conference that just signed a brand new deal where they have that signed, basically, I don't know about signed, that's done. They're set for the next 5 to 7 years. Go anywhere to a conference that right now doesn't know anything about its future.
And also, let's be honest, the Big 12 would be more than happy to talk to any school should they become available, and that was officially in the water, right? If it was one of those things that these schools are in the water, they would be happy to. But the Pac-12 has had several different chances to add schools from the Big 12 in their time and thumb their nose at most of them.
Yeah.
So,
and it's all in water.
So it's just they have different organizational goals. So I don't think there's a lot of schools in the Big 12 that would want to just leave and go there because
also what would they have to pay?
Exactly. It's not
even with 60% of a discount that Texas and Oklahoma might get. We don't know that. When